Chris Petti, and this is the Petti test. Hello everyone, I am Chris Petti, and welcome back to the Petti test. I want to thank everybody again for watching my earlier videos, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and suggestions that you've all given. And for today's episode, I'm going to be showing how to reverse engineer some sounds on a Joker track. The track is called Tron, and let me just play it for you so that you can hear what we're actually going to do. The sound is going to be at the drop, and when the suggestion came in, it was actually described to me as the purple wow sound, which I'm really not familiar with that description, but there's some very interesting things going on with it, and I'm always into reverse engineering interesting sounds, and I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's take a listen to what we're going to deal with today. So the bass sound that's being used throughout the drop is basically modified throughout the track, and there's different changes going on. But if I take these two bars that we have here for the main first two bars of the drop, we'll be able to make the changes and modify it to go along with the rest of the track. So I've got these two bars in a loop, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the rack, and I'm going to go and create an instance of Thor. There's a number of different things that I hear going on in this sound, but most notably there's a very detuned element going on with it, and it's an exaggerated detune. It's almost to the point that you can't hear the pitch. There's a number of different synths that could do this. From what I hear, Joker uses Reason quite a bit to do some of his sounds, so it's quite possible that maybe he did this inside Reason itself. If not, we could do this inside Silent. We could also do this inside Massive. There's a number of different tools, and once we understand the concepts, it's very easy to translate it over into anything else. So I'm just going to change the color code here so we have the full Joker colors of purple and green. And I'm going to go back to my sequencer, and I'm just going to enlarge the track. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in a note clip here for my Thor track that I'm going to figure out the sound with. And what I want to do first is I want to place the notes exactly where they're hitting inside the Joker track. So while this is playing along, I'm simply just going to open up my piano roll editor inside Reason, just enlarge it so that we can actually see the notes. And I have to confess, I did figure this out before as far as what the actual notes were, but I'm going to pretend and make it look like I'm just figuring it out now for the first time. So let's see. Let me think about that. Okay, so if I had to guess, it would be F to C, F to B. Now, I already know that, so that's what I'm going to do. I've now drawn in the MIDI clip, and you can see that I believe that these are the notes that are hit. If I play it back, okay, so let's jump back to Thor. So like I said, what I hear with this is I hear a very detuned element going on. So I'm going to expose the programmer, and what I'm going to use for this is I'm going to use one of the multi-oscillators. And the multi-oscillator basically stacks waveforms. If you remember the first video that I showed you how to create the Hoover sound, you remember that it basically stacks waveforms, and I have a detune control to be able to detune the actual waveforms from each other to create this big chorus type sound, bigger than life. It's been used like crazy in electronic music. So with the unison oscillator on, the sound already takes on a quality that's more like what we're hearing in the tune. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to layer that with another multi-oscillator, and this one I'm going to set an octave lower than the first one. And I'm going to set my detune type to random 2 on both of them. And I'm just going to pipe this one in here. And I'm going to add another one, a third one into the mixture. And I'm going to set this one to random and 2 as well. And I actually want to have control over the detune amount on these particular oscillators. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick patch here inside my matrix, and I'm going to set rotary 2 on Thor to control the detune amount for oscillator 2 and oscillator 3. So let me just set that to the detune amount. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give myself the full range here. So I'm going to set both amounts to 100% completely and 0 both of them back out. And then if I turn rotary 2, and finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to take rotary 1 and I'm going to assign it to control the detune amount for oscillator 1. So let me take that and pair it up with the detune amount for oscillator 1, and let's set this to a neutral amount, like about 50. And now if I turn rotary 1, it's going to exaggerate the detune on oscillator 1. So the sound on the track is actually much brighter, and it's a filter control that we have. If I move my low-pass filter here, we hear the sound brighter. Now, we're just going to listen to this for one more second just so that we can hear it again. There's a lot of articulation going on with the synthesizer. We hear pitch slides going on, and there's also a wobble that's going on. But it's not like the wobble that you've seen before utilizing the filter, and we're going to get to that in a moment or two. Let's just listen to the original tune just so that we can A-B it again. So what I hear with that is I hear a slight filter movement on that, guided by the envelope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Thor, and I'm going to turn my envelope amount up all the way for filter 1. And I'm going to put a slight attack on the filter envelope, just so that it opens really quickly. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a second filter into this and run a parallel connection. That is to say, I'm going to have both filters running simultaneously, and I'm going to have all 3 oscillators piped into both filters at the same time. So let's just put this into a neutral position here in the center, and let's take the filter envelope and bring it amount down for that, and let's listen back to this. So like I said, there's a little bit of pitch glide going on with this also. So I'm going to utilize the portamento function on Thor, and I'm going to back off my amount a little bit just so that it slides quickly into the next note that it jumps to. So it's very subtle, but hopefully you can hear that. So the next step is to approach this wobble that's going on. So let's take a listen to it again to hear exactly what's going on with it. So the big thing with this track that makes it different is that the wobble is not associated with the filter cutoff. It's actually wobbling the pitch. So in order to do this, I'm going to go back to my instance of Thor, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign Ep.4 to control the pitch of all 3 oscillators. The pitch is very exaggerated on the wobble as well. Using it in subtle amounts, it would create like a nice vibrato, something that would simulate the way that an actual acoustic instrument vibrates the pitch, like a guitar player or like a violin player. So he's exaggerating the pitch to a high degree with this, with the wobble. So I hear this moving in a negative direction first rather than a positive direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my value set at -40 for each of these different oscillators. And once I have this set, if I strike the key, we're going to hear the exaggerated wobble. So he's using a faster rate, and he's also using a different wave shape. He's using, my guess is probably a triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set Ep.4 to the triangle, and I'm going to set it to tempo sync, and I'm also going to set it to key sync. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my rate to 8th note triplets. And now if I strike the key, So the wobble is going all the time here, and what I want to do is I actually want to be able to control this because there are a lot of notes that are hitting that don't have the wobble. The wobble is at the end of the phrase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale these LFO amounts by the mod wheel so that I can use it as performance controllers. This is very important for programming synth patches. For any of the really, really good inspiring patches that you find inside presets for plugins or even in hardware, you'll find that they're very active and that they have lots of assignments to the velocity and to the mod wheel, and they just have a lot of things going on. The idea is so that they're inspirational and playable in all different types of styles and give you a number of different ideas for different uses for them. So now that I've got this scaled by the mod wheel, if I strike the key, so I'm getting pretty close to this at this point in time. Let's just take a quick listen again to the original tune and pick out a couple more little things that are going on. What I hear immediately is that the high notes that are hit and the part where it's wobbling, it's not as detuned as it is when it hits on the other notes. So what I'm going to do is, because I assigned my detune control to rotary 1, which I'm just going to quickly name detune for os1, and I'm going to rename the other one detune for 2 and 3. Just like to keep things organized here as far as what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my amount down here, and I'm going to option click on the detune control for oscillator 1. And what it does is it brings up a automation lane for me for my Thor track. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to enlarge this, and I'm going to draw in a clip. And I'm just going to disable my snap by hitting the S key and shorten this to the first note. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside the clip and I'm going to draw in a value of, let's see, put this at halfway. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to turn the snap back on and I'm going to click. Let me just set my value resolution to 1/2 bar, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag this clip now to the second part here. So if I play this back, we should hear heavy detuning going on for the hard notes that hit and less detuning for the others. I'm actually okay, so what we're missing finally from all of this is the wobble. So if we take one more listen to the original tune, one of the things that I noticed after looking at this a couple of times is that the wobble actually increases and gets more intense towards the end of the note being held down. And it actually releases at the end also. If you take a look at the waveform, you can see that it goes back to the original shape that it was, which was without the wobble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Thor, and what I want to do is I want to create an automation lane for my mod wheel. So I'm going to hold down the option key and I'm going to click on the mod wheel, and it's going to bring up an automation lane for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in another clip here, and I'm going to disable the grid by hitting the S key, and I'm simply going to bring this clip back a little bit so that it stops. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the mod wheel automation, and I'm simply going to draw in an increasing amount that happens over the time of that. So let's set this to the full exaggerated amount when it gets to the end of this. So if I play it back now, so let's quickly A/B this. So we can hear that my sound actually has a little bit more body and a little bit more depth to it. It's because he's using a sub bass inside his tune too, so he's got two different lines going on with this. It's kind of like building a house. It's layered. We've got the basement, we've got the middle floors. So what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to fix this simply by adding an EQ to the mixture of things, and EQ is actually one of your best friends with doing sound programming and doing sound design. You can turn ordinary sounds into amazing sounds simply by accentuating the parts that you want to be heard. So while this is playing back, I'm just going to solo it out, and I'm going to adjust my EQ and possibly eliminate some of the bottom end on it. And I'm just clipping a little bit, so let me just back off my master volume. So I'm just going to do a little bit of more processing to this. One of my favorite tools to use on these types of sounds that you really want to have accentuated is to use this effect called the Haas effect. Basically what it does is it creates a widening of the stereo image and just makes everything sound a little bit more lush, a little bit more wide in the stereo image, and it is the mid-range main sound on this for the drop. So let's just listen to it without the Haas effect. So there you have it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell how you would do this type of sound. Remember, it's the pitch modulation of the wobble rather than the filter cutoff. I actually really like this. I think it's a very interesting approach, and it's different. And I'm all for different and pushing the boundaries. It's not your run-of-the-mill filter wobble dubstep track that we hear in all too much abundance today. So I hope that you've enjoyed this installment, and remember, every sound can be found. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to DubSpot. We believe in providing you hands-on experience right away. Whether you're completely new to music and want to turn the sounds in your head into a musical reality, or you're an experienced artist looking to refine your skills and add new tools to your arsenal, we're ready to meet you at your level. For students of all ages, all levels, and all styles of music, DubSpot is here to help you achieve your goals. With course offerings both online wherever you are and at our school in the heart of New York City, we are ready to guide you through the next phase of your musical transformation. Whether you want to produce music, DJ, or do both, you've come to the right place. Come explore DubSpot for yourself, become a part of our community, and make music.